Well, hello and welcome back to Module 4 of this Developing Digital Skills in Your Classroom e-learning MOOC from the European SkillNet. In Module 4 we've been looking at how to program machines, and it really has been lots of little bits of information about coding, about app development, about educational robotics. And as I said right at the start of this course, this is the one module where you really need to support each other and go away and see if you can find other interesting content. In this final video though, we're going to be talking a little bit about the Internet of Things. Now this is an emerging trend, not just in education, but also globally. And what is the Internet of Things? Well, let's hand over to Mashable, who'll explain it a lot better than I ever could.
The Internet of Things refers to things that are connected to the Internet. This can be anything from refrigerators, thermostats, toothbrushes. If you have something that's Internet smart, it's a part of the Internet of Things. These gadgety things collect data about the way you use them and help you make lifestyle improvements along the way. For example, a web-connected tennis racket uses sensors within the racket itself to determine your swing and why you keep hitting a ball off the court. Some household items are already web-connected. For example, Samsung has an internet-connected refrigerator which tweets and streams music directly from Pandora. There's also the Nest thermostat, which Google recently bought for $3.2 billion. The Nest learns your preferences and can cool or warm your house based on your habits, all automatically. Eventually, these objects will all work together and create what people are calling a smart home. However, there are some challenges in having a fully connected life, and experts don't really think the Internet of Things is going to take off until far into the future. For instance, your Samsung refrigerator can't talk to your Sony TV because each company is working on their own technology that isn't compatible with other companies' technology. There are also concerns with security and privacy, like who owns your data, and what if hackers infiltrate your home? Could your house get a virus? As major companies like Apple and Google become more interested in this type of technology, there's no question that the Internet of Things is going to become even bigger very soon.
Once again, I hope you found that interesting, and thanks very much for Mashable for providing us with the content for that. Now you're probably wondering, well, that's all very well, but how could the Internet of Things actually help us in learning? Well, in some schools, believe it or not, this is already happening. This is Monk Seton High School in North Tyneside in the UK. I've already mentioned Monk Seton as a forward-thinking school elsewhere in this course. The reason I mention it here is because littered all over Monk Seton are little temperature sensors, which keeps the building at a constant temperature of 18.5 degrees Celsius. Now you might think that's a little bit strange, but the reason the building is kept at 18.5 degrees Celsius is because that's the temperature that teenagers learn the best in. So this is using learning science, fed by the Internet of Things, to actually change the learning environment. And learning environments really are something which will take off when it comes to the Internet of Things. Another project that I'm a little bit involved in and keep a close eye on is the Ohmmeter project. Now what a Ohmmeter is it's basically a small sensor which is internet enabled, which measures classroom light levels, temperatures and humidity, sound volume and rhythms, air pollution and CO2, and also air pressure. And the great thing about this, of course, is that if we actually collect all this information, we can actually then start to do things that might improve the learning environment. For example, put more windows in, or maybe put some soundproofing in, or maybe think about how we could reduce air pollution in the local area. So the Ohmmeter is one of the great examples of an internet-enabled sensor which helps us gather information about the local environment, which could then improve the learning conditions for children and of course for teachers in our schools. And of course it's not just the purpose-built sensors that we've got that are available now. Our mobile phones and other internet-enabled devices are also starting to give us a lot of information about behaviour intelligence. Perhaps one of the most famous is Muesli.com. Muesli.com allows us to start to link things that are connected to the internet, both in our homes, on our bodies, and also in the local community as well. And Muesli is just one of the many services that are now available to link different things together. Perhaps the most exciting for us in education is a resource which is called opensense.com. And this allows us again to turn flows of information to action by triggering online applications. Things become smart, versatile, and interact in real time with remote things. Imagine, as you walked into your classroom in the morning, then your kettle automatically went on to make you a cup of coffee. I know it might sound like a silly thing, but all of these things over time will help us become more and more efficient. So how can we be preparing young people in schools around the Internet of Things? Well, a couple of things that I'm doing in my school is I've invested in some Internet of Things starter kits for young people. This one is called Little Bits. And what Little Bits are, is it's an Internet enabled set of components which you can plug together and link via your home Wi-Fi. It means that I can set things up that draw the curtains in the room, or also turn lights on and off. It's a great way to start to introduce young people to the Internet of Things. Another set of sensors that I've got for my senior school students is something called Adafruit Flora sensory pack. And what Adafruit is these little small micro sensors that could actually be sewn onto clothing. And again, young people can program these to flash depending on what the conditions are like in the room around them, whether it's hot, whether it's cold, or whether there's any sort of movement. Again, by playing with these things and experimenting with these things, I hope to be able to introduce my students to the Internet of Things and help prepare them for jobs in the future. The other thing that I'm also working with students on at the moment is some of the dangers of the facts when everything becomes programmable. For example, in 5 years' time, I'm expecting driverless cars to be really quite common. But anything that's driverless, driven by a computer and linked to the internet, is able to be hacked. So I need to speak with my students about the values that might bring. And also medical goods as well. Many of you might remember, for example, the Homeland series of 2012, when the president was killed because of a pacemaker being hacked into. The funny thing is things like that are actually perfectly possible if medical things inside us are also going to be internet enabled. I showed you right back in module 2 one of the websites called showdown.io, and this is basically a web search for any internet enabled devices that aren't protected by a firewall. And if you search it, it's quite amazing to see how many different devices there are that are now connected to the internet. Why am I telling you this? Well, I'm now actually going to go all the way back to module 1 and the end of module 1. We've got lots of large technology drivers at the moment in our schools, from 3D printing to the blurring of the virtual and the physical world. But the Internet of Things, sensors on everything, constant connectivity and more robots, as I've demonstrated in this video, is certainly going to mean that our education has got to really be values based. It's got to be high on resilience. It's got to be working with young people to embrace change. Yes, we want people to innovate, but we also must get them to remain positive as well. But that values word at the top is the really, really important thing. As we start to trust machines more and more with our daily lives, we're really going to also need to trust the programmers to make sure they make the right decisions for the benefit of all of us across Europe. See you in the next video, which is going to be all about using social media in schools.